Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the
Hello.
Arts and Minds Collective podcast. I, once
Yes.
again, am Mackenzie Clough.
And I'm Christine Thorpe.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining
Welcome
us
back.
for
Yes.
another tangent of, our current series of kind of going through the history of mental health and therapy,
And yep, what is it? Addressing the rumors.
all the
What is mental
rumors.
health? It's a lot. It's a lot of cogs working into one whole thing that is mental
Yeah. And especially since we started off with the history of it and going
health.
into therapy and modalities, and we figured we should probably dive in a little bit deeper into diagnoses since we talked about that
hmm
a lot last time. Diagnoses of the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, the good, the
Um,
bad, and the ugly of diagnosis.
yeah.
Because it definitely has good, it definitely has bad, and it definitely has ugly.
hmm I think the thing that comes to mind, kind of what we touched on last time too, was treatment
hmm
planning and insurance. And I think even for us, that's why I typically say "Hey, your diagnosis is at the top of the treatment plan, and that is for insurance purposes. It's not because I'm putting a label on your forehead and bringing you into therapy. This is because insurance wants me to tell them exactly what's
Yeah.
going on."
Yes. Yes. I don't know how many times I'm like, listen, I don't think that we really need a diagnosis. We have to come up with something. Or
Mhm,
maybe the client is in wants to get assessed more for whatever's going on, and I cannot provide that level of assessment. And so it's like, well, we got to put something down so that you can see me for therapy, and then we'll change it once you actually get that full assessment. Um, because yeah, insurance will not pay for therapy if you do not have a diagnosis. Um, we got to prove because we're in a medical model, like we discussed last episode. Because we're in we use a medical model for treating mental health issues. We have to prove that it is a medical necessity
mhm.
to have therapy.
Which is why you'll see the most common being anxiety and depression because, like we kind of talked about too, sending out the PHQ-9, the GAD, we're basically
hmm
trying to, well, obviously we're trying to start off with where are you at in terms of anxiety and depression, but then it kind of also informs that diagnosis piece. Unless you
hmm
come in with a diagnosis too of, I've been previously diagnosed with this, or like Christine said, I want to come in for an assessment. That's why psychiatrists also do neuropsych evals, I think, to kind of get into the meat and potatoes of what they're
hmm
noticing too. So there are many, many ways of getting a diagnosis, and one of them is not TikTok, by the way.
No, self diagnosis is. I think it's good to be aware of things, and I
hmm
think it's good to be like, hey, I think this is like some issues that I'm having or some things that I need to work on, but don't diagnose yourself. Go
Yeah.
see a professional whose
Yep.
job and they have learned and it is their job to diagnose you because they have taken they have the education to look at this gigantic
The
book,
Wow, it really did. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger, doesn't it?
thicker and thicker, bigger and bigger.
for for our audio listeners, Justine. Oh my God,
Who am I?
I did it,
I held up, Christine held up
Christine.
the DSM-5 TR, which is the most recent edition of the DSM-5, and it's as big as it's bigger than my face.
Then your nog. We
Yeah, and
I did
it's
my
thick,
own big, and it's shiny now too.
and
Maybe
it's
I didn't
shiny
know
now too.
that.
Yeah,
They're
it's
like,
shiny now.
"Yay,
They made it
happy
shiny.
Pride Month." It's a shiny DSM.
Well, I mean, it came out a couple like 2 years ago, but
But
actually,
also
it
happy
came out
Pride
in
Month.
2020 and 2022, so it's been out for a little
Yeah,
while now. But
yeah.
yeah.
Oh my God. I think I meant to say that last time now that we're officially in Pride
Oh
Month.
yes, happy Pride,
Happy
everybody!
happy month.
Happy
Well
month, happy
done.
Pride.
Happy Pride. We're here for you no
Yes,
matter what.
we're here for you. Yes.
I think I did a slip earlier because I think Justine being one of the therapists in our practice, at
Mhm.
one point it was just the three of us in our tiny little counseling office. We were talking about diagnoses and stuff like this, and I know that she also has some opinions on this area, so we'll have to have her on.
Yes. But yes, we have been trained and taught how to look at the DSM to understand the criteria, how to differentially diagnose, how to use which assessments we should use, how to use them, how to score them, all that stuff, um, which are all, again, like we were talking about last episode, the evidence based, reliable, valid things that that you get then a true diagnosis versus, yeah, so and so on TikTok has these symptoms, does these things, and I do these things too, right? Which honestly, we could then segue into episode 5 of this of being like, everyone's a little autistic. Um,
Here's why.
yeah, everyone's a little autistic. I truly kind of hate that sentence because yes, and also no. Yes, everybody has quirks, and neurotypical people STEM and mask and all that stuff, but there's a difference between autism and just, you know, having a little bit of anxiety and so you bounce your leg or
Yes.
putting on the customer service mask, right? But that'll be maybe the next episode we get into neurodivergence and that. But I think it's a good topic to talk about with diagnoses because yeah, don't diagnose yourself. Um, In fact, that's like one of the first things they tell us in school when we start
Yeah.
learning how to diagnose is don't diagnose yourself. You need an objective third person outside of you to look at everything.
You
Um,
could look at the
yeah,
DSM, you could look at basically almost any diagnosis and be like, "Oh, this is me, this is me, this is me." It's just that well, and also that's why we talked about, like, complex PTSD and how so many
hmm
symptoms are within a Venn diagram, and that's why it's good to, like, yes, go to a professional in order to and, of course, we'll get into it, but I think, like, even therapists, we have our own issues with the DSM, I think too. I think there's like a lot of updating that needs to be done. I know they've talked about
still, yeah,
still I think they've talked about even like the spectrum between like ADHD and autism where that might even be like a similar diagnosis ultimately like once they kind of break it
yeah, yeah,
down. So,
yeah. Every time I tell people, I'm like, they say, like, they think, and I'm
they
like, who's they? I guess the APA, they're doing
that's true.
research on and trying to figure out if ADHD and autism actually are all part of the same spectrum. And so, like, we're constantly, this, this stuff in this book is constantly being evaluated, constantly being researched, constantly being figured out on how to better our understanding of the different mental health disorders or diagnoses and um, make it so that yeah we are diagnosing people correctly but also you run into the issue of like okay what if I just have uncomplicated grief like
Yeah.
my
Mhm.
if somebody that I know passed away I'm feeling grief about this I need to go talk to a therapist for a hot minute well I'm pretty sure there's a Z code in there for uncomplicated grief but
Yeah.
yeah there's I can't die I shouldn't be diagnosing you with a disorder because you're experiencing grief like every normal person does when they lose someone that they love, right? Like, and that's where like diagnosis gets tricky. But go ahead and talk about yes, this is our Bible.
Yeah.
That's the
This is
joke that this is the
yeah.
Bible, the DSM,
That this is what we have
5TR.
to
This is the
God, like, every
therapist
time you hold
Bible.
it up, I'm just like, "Jesus."
It's
Well,
heavy.
and so so well,
Yeah.
especially if you can hear that over audio, but for, like, the visual, if you're not listening visually, go look up, like, how big the DSM is, and prior to this, it's a big he's a big boy. He's a whole boy. And what I did not know prior to this, I don't remember being taught this portion of like the history of the DSM, and we're not going to
Mm,
get into like that part specifically, but I at least thought our listeners might want to know that it actually was it says it was evolved from an early census statistics and used for military needs. It was originally a 32-page pamphlet started in 1952.
yeah.
So, we're
And now
32
it's
to
1,080 page monstrosity. Look at all these tabs of all the
all the
different
tabs.
diagnoses too in
Yeah,
here.
and
Monstrosity.
that's, no longer including the, like, discontinued
Yes.
diagnoses.
I'll say they so like when it says DSM-5 TR, that means it's been revised. So when we were in school, I learned on the DSM-5.
DSM-5. Yep.
And then it came out the DSM-5 TR came out and was available in, like, late 2022, which I don't think I bought this one because I was like, "Oh, I, 1, lost my DSM-5." I don't know where it went, and 2, um, I probably left it at, like, my old job or something, but and 2, um, I needed to get the updated one because, yes, they have gotten rid of certain diagnoses or like changed criteria for other diagnoses, added things. There's consideration for new diagnoses in this. And it's important to stay up to date on it.
Yep.
But yeah,
I think the
but
main
yeah,
one, yeah, the main thing being, again, since we talked about, like, the medical model, and
hmm,
I think, like, yeah, of course, we're, like, using this for, like, insurance diagnostic purposes. I think one of the most common diagnoses you'll see, or that you might have even gotten at some point, is adjustment disorder. Because if we straight up just like Christine was saying, if we like don't want to just diagnose you like willy nilly, that's usually the go to. And
yeah,
that
because
one you're only
adjustment,
supposed to,
yeah,
yeah,
you're
for
supposed
short term.
to. It's short term. It's only 6 months. You're supposed to reevaluate in 6 months. It's basically like, oh, there's been something, right?
Yeah,
Something has happened that has caused stress and anxiety. It's limiting functioning, it's impairing functioning, big life changes, a move, or someone has died, or any of those things. And of course, I hate that it's like adjustment disorder. Like
right.
most people have to go through a period of adjustment when there's big life changes in general. And would be, I feel like it's pretty normal that you would be feeling some big feelings about
Yeah. Yeah. And that doesn't mean I'm just gonna like pull a diagnosis,
yeah.
out of the
But
middle of
like,
nowhere.
But out of all the diagnoses, it's the least stigmatizing one because it is only 6 months. You're supposed to be reevaluating it every 6 months. And it's like, okay, well, this thing has been resolved now. So like, and like their symptoms have gone away. So now they're fine, right? But yeah, I hate that it's called disorder. I actually like really kind of hate that they're all called disorders.
Disorders. Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
because
Generalizing stuff, yeah.
yeah, it's a
I just
disorder. Like there's something like disordered about you.
yes. Yeah. I think that's why, like, and I think that's still something that obviously we can go back to, but, like,
Hmm.
saying neurodivergent or, like, neurodiverse, where people are like, "Oh, ADHD and autism," but basically it's, like, anything that strays from the neurotypical, hence neurodiverse, you're diverting.
Yeah.
So,
And
that
like
whole, like, umbrella.
neurotypical people can also experience anxiety,
Yeah.
and lots of things cause anxiety, but I think the thing is like with the diagnoses, we're always, there's always criteria, but one of the criteria that you always have to have is it impairing functioning in one or more, like you're having a hard time working or like taking care of yourself or taking care of others, right? Keeping friends, all these things. Like it's limiting your functioning somewhere in your life. And that's whereas like we know it's like, okay, then like now if someone needs help.
Mhm.
Um, but I can also can't think of like a better word to say than disorder,
That's true.
you
Yeah.
know?
I don't know. I guess, like, I'm trying to well,
Yeah.
I'm like, dysphoria, I think, is, like, another one that pops up in there, but even still, like, I don't know. I would have this is, like, a whole conversation that goes to,
Well,
oh my
yes,
god,
that's a
what's the
very
study of
controversial. What?
language, by the way?
Oh, etymology?
Yes, yeah. I would
Yes.
like to know, where that came from, I guess.
Yeah, well, and like that's maybe like this is an example of the ugly here because you know what? Table this. We're going to get into it. I'll explain later why disorder. Anyways,
Okay.
but yeah, why do we have to have a diagnosis? As we said, medical model. We have insurance. We have to show that there's medical necessity, that something is wrong and it needs to be treated through our evidence-based practices, the modalities that we talked about in the last podcast episode, last episode. And because we have a medical model, we have to have diagnosis, which is why I was talking about, like, if we had a social model, we necessarily wouldn't have to have diagnosis. You could just see a therapist because you just need someone to talk to. You can
Exactly.
see a therapist because you're having uncomplicated grief about your dog dying or whatever, right?
Mhm.
Like, and you not have to worry about um, having your insurance be like, I'm not going to cover this. And of course, that then gets into like a whole thing of like,
I don't
sure
want my
wish.
job to know, like, about my diagnosis either, like, that's a whole.
Oh, yeah, totally. But I was going to say, like, the fact that in order for us, in order for therapy to be accessible, because I do truly believe we should be paid for what we do. It is
Yeah,
not an easy job. There's a lot of schooling behind it. We constantly have to keep up our education with taking, CEs and stuff. We should be paid for what we do, but I don't think it should be like access should be the way to get access should be completely different. Of course, I'm going to sit here and I'm
oh,
like, toot
yeah,
toot,
yep,
universal health care, toot toot, it wouldn't be a fucking issue, toot toot, if it was just covered because of taxes, toot toot. But like, um, the fact that the most people can afford therapy is through their insurance covering the cost or making the cost less so that we can then be paid a, you know, the amount of money that honestly we should.
we should,
Um,
yeah,
yeah,
and the
means that we're like kind of stuck in the medical, like we don't have a choice but to be in the medical model.
yes,
And of
yes,
course, like if we then became like, okay, it's universal health care, again, we would still have to probably have diagnoses, right? We would have to be
mhm,
proving that there's medical necessity on that stuff. But I think it would also be easier to like combine that, like we said, like the last episode, have more of a marriage between that social model and that medical model
yeah,
towards
and then
therapy.
you're technically not having to, and for, like, those who don't know, sometimes we have to, like, outright justify to insurance companies, like, why somebody's coming to therapy, and even if,
Hmm.
like, I don't wanna say it, just, I mean, using air quotes, like, if you have generalized anxiety disorder, that feels like it should be enough. Sometimes it's not. Basically, insurance is like, "Oh, but you've been seeing them for, like, 6 months. Why isn't it better? Like, why are they still
Yeah.
going to therapy?" And that part
You've been
is, like,
seeing them
wild
for
to
3
me.
years. Why are they still in therapy? And it's like, I don't know, insurance company. They have a lot of different diagnoses and like we're in the maintaining stage.
Yep. Mhm.
You
Yep.
take away the therapy and it's going to be bad. Like,
Yeah, and then we're just gonna
yeah,
restart to where we
and
were.
it's all going to restart again. Like, um, yeah, the like hindrances of like, well, how are they still having this diagnosis if it's been 6 months, if it's been a year, if it's been 3 years, and it's like, well, what's crazy is a lot of these diagnoses are lifelong and,
Yeah,
you know,
and
um,
things just don't stop happening.
yeah,
Like,
things just don't stop happening. Like, I don't know how many times, like, I have a client who she's like left and come back, left and like, I just kind of like she's on my roster when when she needs to see me because stuff has happened. She reaches out, we schedule, we see each other for a little bit. It'll be 3 months or 6 months, sometimes even a year. And then she's like, okay, I'm feeling pretty good now. Bye. I'm like, okay, bye. Doors open if you need me. And then like she'll reach back out again, right? Like, because maybe you don't need consistent every single week. You know, four 4 weeks a month, 52 weeks a year or whatever. Therapy for years and years and years. But even just going on to bi-weekly and just like maintaining, right? And being like, because I think for a lot of people, therapy is a little bit of like a safety blanket.
totally. Right, and especially too, like, if you're like Christine said, if you're coming weekly, biweekly, monthly, whatever it looks like for you, that
Mm-hmm.
it's like that space to, like, decompress and
Mm-hmm.
feel safe, or, like, "Oh, the state of the world is, like, stressing me out. I just wanna,
Yeah.
like, be somewhere and vent about it," to just, like, and it shouldn't, I guess that's, like, I guess
This
that's
is where it gets like into the crux of the things because like, and I'm supposed to put a label on that, a
right, and
diagnosis
now I
on
have to,
this.
right? Like,
And justify it for a
proof it.
continuous period of time.
I think I've made this joke to Christine before where anytime insurance is like, "Okay, like, can you prove that they still need therapy?" And I wanna put, like, gestures broadly, like,
Yeah.
everything? Like, what else do I need to justify?
Yeah, what do you mean, can I prove if they still need therapy? If they think they still need therapy, then they still need
Yeah.
therapy.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Maybe
um,
this is where we transition into the good part. Maybe we
yeah,
should we'll
let's
stop being negative Nancy's and get
yeah,
into
we'll
the
stop being negative Nancy's about the medical model and insurance, um, and talk about what's good about diagnosis. Okay, well, what's good about diagnosis? I mean, I think, and I've felt this for myself too with being diagnosed with multiple different things.
Mhm.
Um, Y'all, sometimes it's out here the blind leading the blind, except for I've been through therapy, so I'm not as blind as I was before.
It's good
But
to
you know,
have, like
an
y
explanation.
yes, yep,
Yeah.
mhm,
I've
yep,
literally had clients be like, "Oh, so I'm not just like crazy, right?
mhm,
Like there's actually like a thing."
yes. There's
Like,
a you're putting a name to here's the thing, you're
yeah.
putting a name to it, not a label, right? Like, I
Mhm.
wouldn't walk up to someone and say, like, "Hi, I'm Mackenzie, I have blank." It would just be it's something that I know more about myself that,
Mhm.
again, it's not
And it
something that
helps,
I'm using to
yeah.
identify.
It helps explain the experiences, right? Like, why am I feeling this way? Okay, well, it's because, like, why do I feel so worthless? Why am I feeling nothing? Why am I feeling so
Mhm,
guilty? Well, because you're experiencing major depression, right?
exactly. Yep.
And like, you're not, yeah, I think too, it helps like with the not feeling alone part of it. Like, this
Mhm,
is something you have a diagnosis that obviously is enough people have that like it's made into the DSM, right? Like we know what it is and we know how to treat it and like you're not going to be just alone in this because like some of these diagnoses, the experiences of these symptoms can be really scary
mhm.
and like you
Think
don't
about,
know what's
like
going on.
yes. And
Yeah.
the first thing that comes to mind is like ADHD, right? Where it's like, okay, if you have ADHD, chances are you already have anxiety and depression. That's a given. It's the
Hmm.
comorbidity of it all. But then what you're like not diagnosing because it's not in the DSM is like rejection sensitivity dysphoria and things like
Yeah.
that, where it's just like it's coming along with your diagnosis. And it doesn't mean that you have like a long list of like, oh my God, all these things are wrong with me. These are just like, it's
This
like a
is
train.
explanations for why you were experiencing these things and like they can be worked on, they can be helped, they can be improved. um you're not just going to be stuck like this forever, and I think that's
Mhm.
like one of the most helpful things about diagnoses is like, yeah, I've had, and like even myself I'm like, oh, honestly, like once like I got my like autism diagnosis, my odd ADHD diagnosis, I was like, oh, everything about my life makes so much more sense now.
Mhm.
Because for
Yep.
years I was like, "Why am I so anxious? Why am I so depressed?" I was looking everywhere for an like, yeah, I'd explained like why I was feeling the way I was, but it didn't make sense why I was feeling the way that I was. And like
Mhm.
I was looking for explanations everywhere and like epigenetics and like family history and all this stuff. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, there's like a predisposition to it and all these things. But I'm like, but I don't understand why like I hate my life
Yeah,
and don't
why,
want to
like
be here anymore.
yeah,
And then
yes.
now that, like, I've been diagnosed, I'm like, with the autism and ADHD, I'm like, "Oh, I just was, like, raw dogging untreated, unmedicated, ADHD and autism my entire life, and it came to, like, a head at one point, yeah, eventually, right? Like, it got to a point where, like, that's where the anxiety and the depression got diagnosed.
Yep.
Um, and
And this is
so,
where,
like,
like, I like,
yeah.
that part about, like that's the good part about the diagnosis, right? It might sound like
Mhm.
we're bouncing back and forth because obviously there's, like, the downside of, like, the necessity of having a diagnosis or, like, the
Yeah.
justification of it, but it is, like, that extra layer of, like, getting to know yourself better, essentially, right? And I like that you use that example of like, "Oh my god, I just thought I was crazy. I thought there was something wrong with me." No,
I know.
there's
And then,
just
like, I always have, like, a little, like, joking with my client. I'm like, "Well, there is something wrong with you, but it's okay. Like, we're gonna
yeah.
fix it."
Yes, exactly, we're
Yeah.
working on it.
Yeah, we're working on it, and, like, you're not the only one who's got something wrong with them. What is normal?
Yes,
Like I said, what is normal?
yes.
Um, like, Yeah, and I think too, like, sometimes it's also becomes like an identity piece. Like, it's not just an explanation, but it's like now, like, I identify as neurodivergent. I identify as someone who is on ADHD. Like, not that I have on ADHD, I am on ADHD. I am autistic and I am ADHD. And like, which is, I think, important for a lot of people to know because sometimes I do things or say things or like you and I, right, are getting off on tangents. And it's like, if you guys didn't know we were neurodivergent ADHD,
Mhm.
you'd be like, these girls are weird.
Yeah.
I
Do
never stay
they
on
do they
topic.
ever connect yeah, do they ever
Yeah.
connect one thought to another? No.
No,
The answer is
actually, our
no.
brains don't work that way.
Yeah.
Um,
Christine and I have synced up since, 2022?
yeah,
2022? Yeah, so there's no stopping this neurodivergent
no,
train. I'm
no,
sorry.
no, no. Yep, sorry guys. But we have our notes and I have them here and so like it helps. It helps keep us in track. But
That's
yeah,
right.
it's partially an identity, it's partially just like an explanation of like, okay, so like what I'm experiencing, like there's a reason for it. It's
Yeah.
not just random, right? And then like also yeah, it helps inform treatment. It helps us know like, okay, you have bipolar, what do we need to do next?
Yeah.
Well, medication, getting on the right
Ooh,
medication. Yeah.
here's a
Um,
question to tie it back from last time. How do you feel about, like, self-disclosure when it comes to diagnoses? When you have a client in front of
mm,
you that's like, "Well, do you have any diagnoses?" Like, or, "Is there anything you're working on?"
yeah, I mean, I think almost all my clients know that I'm on ADHD
Mhm.
because, well, a lot of times when I'm explaining like traits and stuff and like what to do and to help navigate the world and stuff. Like I'm using myself as an example. Not to say that I'm a one, it's a one size fits all, but at least it helps. I think it helps with the like person centered approach, like we talked about, right? Like disclosing that I have ADHD and I too experience these things as you do. I too need to stem and do all these stuff, right? And like here's how I'm doing it. Not only I think increases like Yolome, he's big on universality. Like, hey, you're not
Mhm.
alone, but also like shows like a positive role model of like it's okay to be playing with the fidget 24/7. I'm
Exactly.
doing it
Yeah.
all the time, right?
Yeah.
Um, and
Or
here's
even,
this
like,
person.
rejection sensitivity, right? Where it's like, "Oh,
Hmm.
this is something that, like, I tried. It might not work for you, but let's, like, find something that will,"
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
It's interesting. You can kind of, like, use that as a way of, like, again, building that rapport. I mean, obviously, you want
Yeah,
rapport in order to, like, do any sort of therapy, but I think it enhances it a little bit more to say, like, you know, "This is what I've tried, and you can try it too. If it doesn't work for you, we have a whole list of things we can try."
yeah, and like I think I've disclosed like yeah that I've been diagnosed with anxiety and depression to several clients because and then like I've disclosed my own like suicidal. Nothing, like, crazy detailed, just that,
Yeah.
like, I know what you're feeling because I too have gone through that
Mhm.
feeling, right? Um, and, like, this is how I experienced it. Is this how you're also experiencing it? Yes? Wow, crazy that that's happening, like, I'm not surprised. Here's what we need to do.
Mhm.
Because I think especially with, like, suicidal ideation, like, it can feel so isolating and
Yeah.
so lonely. You're just, like, in that pain alone and, like, you don't wanna tell anybody because well, first of all, people are afraid of going to the grippy sock jail, but also because, because usually people are like, don't do that. Like, we would miss you. Blah, blah. It just starts to
Mhm.
feed into the guilt. But like to have a therapist be like, I also have a history of suicidal ideation. There was a time and point where I did want to try to kill myself. And this is what happened. I basically had like self preservation kick in. And I
Yeah.
then went to this. And so, like, I know of like, so like one of my things is like, I know if my depressed client with suicidal ideation is having insomnia and is not sleeping,
Mhm.
that is the thing that needs to be taken care of ASAP
Oh,
because that is
absolutely.
gonna increase their suicidal risk by like, phew,
Yeah.
like it's just gonna go skyrocketing, right? Like we got to take care of this right now. Like you got to get to your doctor and we got to do all this stuff, right? Um, and like I wouldn't know that if I hadn't experienced that, and like I think it's helpful, yeah, for the clients to like hear that like I've experienced this.
Yes. Because then too, it's like and that's, like, another part of that, like, demystifying and we could probably have, like, a whole like episode of this like on like suicide and suicidal ideation because I will 100 I know Christine you're the same. I will 100% like bring it up in session and ask about it because I think the worst thing you could do as a therapist is like be too shy or be too scared to
Mhm.
mention it. Just because you ask somebody like are you suicidal or have you attempted suicide, it doesn't mean that they're like ding, I should try that next. You're
Yeah.
just like trying to get to the bottom of like what's your history with this so that I as your therapist know. And by the way, that's like another big part of like I think our form of therapy is that I'd rather you tell me so that we can figure that out together because and I do not jump to like, okay, we're doing like you said, grippy sock jail
I'm
or an
putting you
M1
on an
hold.
M1 hold. Yeah,
No,
no.
exactly. No, I want you to be honest and tell me
We're
about where you
gonna make that decision together if we feel
together.
like that is the decision that needs to be made. I would
Mhm.
never, if my client was like, "I wanna kill myself," I would never be like, "Okay,"
Beep, beep, beep,
and
beep.
then call behind their back
Yeah.
and be like, "This is where they live, this is who it is, you need to pick them up, they need to be on 'em." Like, no, like, I would be calling that client and being like, "We should talk and figure out what's going on. Can we use our safety plan? What about all these different strategies? Do you feel like you need to go on an M1 hold? Like, is this to the point where, like, nothing is working and I don't know what to do anymore?" I'm gonna be like, "This is the next step. What do you think?" And if they're, like, scared or they're just like, "No, I think I'm gonna do XYZ," right? Like, "I'm gonna do the safety." It's just you need to have that conversation, and I hear, again, horror stories of therapists, like, their new client, because they gotta ask about
Mhm.
suicidal ideation and the intake, like, being like, "Yep, I have suicidal ideation," and, like, not asking if it's passive, not asking if there's any means, intent, or plan, like, they just hear it and they're like, "Ring, ring," and the person's carted off to the hospital, and it's such a
Exactly.
traumatic experience, and I'm like,
Yep. Or it's the and then you're, like, afraid to, like well, you're afraid to go to therapy or you're afraid to, like, bring
"Mhm,
it up at all, and that's when people, like, feel the most alone, right? Where it's like, "Well, I told a therapist once, and now I don't wanna tell anybody because I'm gonna have to go back to the hospital, and I'm gonna have to, like, focus on this." No, I think it's, like, a great thing to be able to be, like, open and honest about even about for your own experience to be like, "Yes, I've been there. Like, I promise you,
mhm,
you're not alone, and I know how much it sucks, but, like, that's why I'm here. That's why, like, we're working together and we're meeting on, like, a weekly basis
yeah,
or whatever so that you don't feel like you have to just, like, suffer in it."
yeah, yeah," and so, with any disclosure, like disclosing diagnoses or disclosing like that, I'm always cognizant of, like, is this serving a purpose? Is this helping
Mhm.
their treatment?
Yep.
Um, I never when I tell the, like, suicide story that I tell, about when I seriously thought about committing it, there's no, like, me talking about, like, the feelings that came up for me, the guilt that I experienced, like, all that stuff, like, um, I've processed that. That's my stuff. But I do share, like, I had that experience,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Um,
Again, we're all about destigmatizing and demystifying it all so that I don't know. I think that's like another like obviously everything goes into like that diagnosis, but I think that's another one of those like if you could see a comment section on a Instagram post about stuff like this where therapists are going to debate to the ends of the earth, but you know,
mhm.
it's just it's another interesting thing about like disclosure and like creating that like therapeutic alliance ultimately.
Yep, yep, yep. So yeah, which sucks because I was thinking like, "Oh, we are talking a really negative about diagnosis," but truly the title of this is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, so, like, we're about to just, like,
We're
dive
about to
into,
go
like,
down
not
yeah.
good. Good things, let's recap. Good things about diagnosis. It can help provide an explanation. It helps provide, like, a path for treatment. Um it can, like, inform identity. It can help with, yeah, like, disclosure and building rapport.
I'm reading books. If you like, if you get a diagnosis and I think like the most common one recently has been like if somebody in their like adulthood gets their autism diagnosis,
Mhm,
there's a book called What Does It Mean When I Say I'm Autistic? I think that's like the main one that I like to give
mhm,
to people because it's like it's technically a self-help book, but it's more of like that autobiography to kinda say like, "This is what I figured out about myself, and these are like the skills and the tools that I use." Because obviously there's like some really good self-help books out there, but when it's more diagnostic focused, I think that's when it helps
Mhm.
a little bit more to be like, "Oh, I'm not alone." Like somebody wrote a whole book about like things I could do.
Yeah, yeah. All right, the bad. What can be
The bad.
bad about diagnosis? This isn't even the ugly stuff yet, guys. This is just the bad about diagnosis. Um, this book that is 1,080 pages with all look at all those tabbies. Those are all different diagnoses. Plus all the other little tabbies are also diagnoses.
Mhm.
The
All
one
the
downside to this thick ass book is the overlap
mhm.
between like diagnoses and the symptoms and whatnot criteria. Um, the insane I once made an insane Venn diagram of borderline personality, bipolar, and ADHD
Oh, yeah. Yep, yep,
because I
yep.
was trying to figure out a differential diagnosis. Um, because there is so much overlap between ADHD and bipolar and borderline
Line.
and ADHD. It's like, and there was stuff in the middle. There was stuff, it was insane because I was trying to figure it out. Um, there is a lot of overlap. The fact, which I honestly am like sitting here thinking like I think that contributes to comorbidity
Oh,
a
absolutely.
lot because yeah, like there's a ton of overlap between autism and ADHD. In fact, like all you have to do is be like the reason for this trait is either because you're being impulsive or you're not focusing or it's because you don't understand social cues. And like that's it. That's the only thing that makes it suddenly different.
That's the thing. Yes. Yeah. And then
Or you're
it's like
stimming. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
and the
either
well,
social cues stemming or you're being impulsive and not focusing. And like you could literally just change the like what is the cause of the trait behind it and you have autism or
yes.
ADHD and the symptoms are almost exactly the same.
Hence why now like well, like we were saying with the DSM, but even with like with autism, now that there's like level 1, 2, 3 instead of like high functioning and low functioning, right? That was so
Mhm.
like, you like had to fit into a category essentially.
Which is still is like too much of a category 1, 2, and 3. Like it's not
Yes.
and like
It's
they just
so
changed
beyond.
it's so like not still not enough, right?
Yep.
Um to really explain because level 1 just means low support needs. Well, low support needs when?
Yes. Mhm.
Because that can vary depending on the environment. Um Moderate support needs and then high support needs, right? Like uh and so it's still not like yeah, we've changed it. We've gotten better at making it what it is, but like it's still not that's why it's the TR, right? It's been revised. Um the overlap between anxiety, depression, and PTSD.
Yeah. Mhm. And well, and especially I think we were talking about this in our like recent group supervision with like the Venn diagram example of like complex PTSD you could basically put up against any diagnosis and be like, "Oh, the majority overlaps. This is basically a
Mhm.
circle," right? So
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
yes, and it kind of like full disclosure, it kind of makes it hard as a therapist to be like I don't wanna, like, say confident because like, I'm definitely, like, confident when I'm, like, making those diagnoses, but
Mhm.
then that's the other part of, like, the insurance. I wish we could have, like, 5 sessions before I had to make a diagnosis. It's stupid that you have to do it in the first session, by the way. Hot take, probably not. Um,
And if you wait until after a second session, you have to show in your note that like we were doing an assessment
exactly, yes.
and they scored this. Yeah.
So it's things like that where like, I would like to know more about like your background, your family background, right? Maybe somebody has a diagnosis that you would like to check into and things like that. So it's hard to make that call off of like a first impression and first
Mhm.
discussion of symptoms without going into, well, now I have like 10 different diagnoses that I could choose from at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, oh, by the way, once I make the not to say you can't change the diagnoses, but like once I make this diagnosis, like it's there now. It's
That's the
there
thing,
now.
right? Yes.
Yeah.
And I know we're gonna talk about that in like and we could potentially like blend them too, but like on the ugly side of diagnoses, like if a clinician gets it wrong, which we have seen like time and time again, right? I've seen someone like misdiagnosed with bipolar disorder who had autism. And that was one of those extreme cases where now they're getting the wrong medication. Now they're getting the wrong type of therapy. Like,
Yeah.
again, one of those like extreme things where you're like, oh, this is the ugly part of it. So
Yes,
that's
this
what
is
we're
the ugly
always
part.
trying to avoid is the
Yeah.
misdiagnosis.
Which is, you know, why there's been 5 different DSMs, started with a
Mhm,
32 leaf pamphlet, now it's 1,080 pages, and there's all these because we've been trying to, like, figure out, okay, all the difference. I mean, the story that I shared about my grandmother getting a lobotomy, you know, back in the day, she was schizophrenic. Like,
mhm.
everything was just schizophrenia.
Schizophrenia. Yeah.
Bipolar was actually you know, could have been bipolar, she could have been autistic, she could have had trauma, she could have had but it was schizophrenia.
Mhm.
Um And now we know, like, okay, schizophrenia actually, like, looks like this, but then there's, like, there's schizoaffective, which is, like, you have bipolar and you have you know, symptoms that are like
Mhm.
schizophrenia when you're manic, and
Yeah. And then there's
yeah,
psychosis, and then there's yeah. There's a lot
yeah,
that, like, I don't know. And, of course, they, like, have us read the DSM, then learn it while we're in grad school, but that's why Christine
mhm,
has a copy. That's why, like, we have online copies because we're always having to go back and, like,
like,
okay,
look at it,
yeah,
do
make
the
sure that I'm hitting
differentials.
all the marks. Yep.
Mhm,
Mhm.
mhm. Or using assessments that we know are reliable and valid to help us assess, like, okay, this person could have depression or PTSD or anxiety. Well, let's give them the PHQ-90 GAD and let's give them the PTSD questionnaire and like see
Mhm.
if it's all three, which usually you end up doing all three, or if it's just the one, you know. Um, and trying to, like, figure it out because, yeah, it takes a hot minute to
It
figure it
takes
out.
yeah.
Um, and then, yeah, like, so there's a lot of overlap between the disorders, and we haven't quite figured out how to not have that happen. In fact, I think the more and more they, like, do this stuff, the more and
Mhm.
more diagnoses get put in. Um, and it's also not one size fit all. Like, yeah, I was explaining to my interns, like, you know, with the MSE, the mental status exam, like, one of my clients normal would look very different from my other clients normal. So like because of the diagnoses, right? Like one person's bipolar is not going to look the same as another person's bipolar. They, you know, that's why there's variations, that's why there's specifiers. But also yeah, it's like with autism, it's hard to put people into a box when it's
Yeah.
not
Oh,
really a
exactly.
box. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially with, like, what was the well, not one size fits all. What was the one that we were talking about? Oh, with, like, eye contact, for example, right?
Mhm.
Where and I think that's part of, like, some of those assessments and, like, the MSE that, like, we've had to use and therapists before us have had to use, where but now it's, like, much more careful to say, like, "Oh, because they, like, couldn't maintain eye contact, it doesn't mean this thing about them. It means that, like, maybe their form of, autism, for example, is that, like, it is very hard for them to maintain eye contact. So
And
if
that would be normal for them.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
So then why like, again, going back to, like, some of those, like, old school ways of again, with, like, medical model and all of that of, like, those things need to be taken into consideration because, like, every human being is different. It's not gonna present the same every single time.
No. Yes, it does have overarching symptoms or traits or criteria or whatever, but yeah, every single person is not gonna present the same
Mhm.
the same with bipolar 1, um, the same way as one person's the other, and, like, that's kind of, you know, a bad thing. It's like, "Okay, well, this you're bipolar 1, and how that bipolar 1 person looks compared to another bipolar 1 person looks is could be very, very different," and, um, you know, treatment still would stay kind of the same, but, like, getting it figured out, right? And then sometimes, yeah, it's not the right fit for a diagnosis.
Mhm. Yeah. I think that's when I would, like, kind of lean and maybe this is me having, like, experience, like, working admin for a psychiatrist where, like, people would come in for full neuropsych and psych evals to get that diagnosis where, yes, I'm confident in myself, but also, like, let's go the extra step and make sure that, like, that's my backup essentially. Um,
Mhm, mhm.
that's why we have our nurse practitioners that, like, do the ADHD and
Yes.
autism testing for us. So, that we can make sure that we're doing everything within our power to make sure that, like, misdiagnosis doesn't happen ultimately.
Yep, yep. And then, like, because of diagnosis and, like, it's an explanation or like we said, it can be good for identity, but also I feel like it can be confusing or messy with identity too. Like,
Mhm.
oh, but I thought I was this way, and now all of a sudden I'm actually autistic, or like, oh, I thought, now I'm someone who's like I'm broken because I
Yeah.
have bipolar or like things like that. Like, you know, struggling with that. Like, you are not your diagnosis. It is just a part of you. Um, but it can be really, and then like, yeah, say you get misdiagnosed, like then that becomes even more confusing because you're like, well, I thought I was OCD the whole time, and actually, like it's this, and
Mhm.
um,
But don't even get me started on, like, popular media and, like, diagnoses either, and what comes to mind is because, like, Euphoria just ended. I'm not gonna, like, do any spoilers, but and I'm, like, 99% sure the main character, Rue, she was diagnosed with, I think it was bipolar disorder and maybe ADHD and or OCD. Either way,
mhm,
there's, like, things like that where maybe somebody watches that and then they get a bipolar diagnosis and it's like, "Oh, I'm gonna turn out like this, right? I'm gonna, fall into, like, bad habits and drugs and things like that."
it's like
So, also
no,
being
no,
no. Yeah, I'm like, that stuff's also genetic, like, take all that
yeah,
into consideration. So,
yeah,
I also try not to I'll use popular media to say, like, "Oh, this is a good representation of da da da," but also, like, this isn't 100% the way, like, OCD looks, bipolar
yeah,
disorder, borderline.
yeah. Um, in fact, like, yeah, I mean, we talked about popular media in episode 2 and like how it showed like different historical things with psychology and therapy and stuff, and being able to discern like what's a good what did a good job at representing this and what is doing a not good job at representing.
Mhm.
Like I think uh, one show that did a good job of representing a diagnosis is Moon Knight with DID.
Oh my god, that was my favorite. That is
Yeah,
such a good
they
example.
did a really good job
Yep.
showing that. Um, and another one, what was I just thinking about? Um,
DID,
it'll
which
come back to
used to
me.
be multiple personality disorder, right? Okay.
Now it's dissociative identity disorder. Um, yeah, I feel like they did a really great job. Oh, it's another Marvel thing. The Thunderbolts with
That I haven't seen.
oh, you should. Very good job at like representing trauma and like PTSD and like depression and like just yeah.
Is that the one where it's, like, Black Widow's family? Is Florence Pugh in this one?
Yeah, Florence Pugh's in
Okay.
it and David Harbour is back as the guy and
That's right, okay.
Sebastian Stan is Bucky and yeah, it's like kind of like
Bucky.
all the rando like B tier people who are like mercenaries for hire and stuff like get
That's
together and
right.
um
I could do a full
yeah.
character study on trauma and Bucky Barnes, and I might.
I will say Disney Marvel does do a really good job portraying trauma responses,
Mhm.
um, and, like, mental health stuff in general. Like, one of my favorite things of all time about grief is from fucking Marvel when, it's from the WandaVision show, and it's after,
Oh,
Pietro
that's
dies.
another good one.
Yes, and, what's his face? Vision is there, and he's like, "What is grief if not love persevering?" And I'm like,
Oh,
"Thank you, Marvel." I'm like,
yep, yep. Oh
like,
my god, I between that and I think WandaVision is, like, some of the hardest I've ever cried at, anything Marvel related. Dear God in heaven. DC, this is, like, a whole side tangent. The Watchmen. Like, if anybody has gotten into, specifically, like, the graphic novel, the movie was okay, but the graphic novel like talking about mental health and everything that like each character goes through within The Watchmen, highly
Mhm.
recommend. That one was very well done.
Yeah. Yeah. Marvel Disney does a pretty good job at
Mhm.
showing some pretty intense feelings and things and mental health stuff, and, um, I wouldn't recommend it if I didn't think it was good, but yeah, so, like,
Yeah.
that's kinda, like, the bad part of diagnosis, but now the ugly part of diagnosis is top of the list is labeling and stigmatizing.
Mhm. Which we've
Um,
touched upon, but I've definitely had my fair share of I mean, DID is a perfect, like, first example to go off of. I think, like, I've had
highly stigmatized.
highly yep. It's, and it was I wanna say it was around, like, my internship. It was, like, one of the first cases I ever had to work with, and then at the same time, it was becoming very popular on TikTok where people were, like, either, like, real or doing, almost like a character act type of thing of having
Mhm,
alters. Um, and I think I don't know, sometimes, like, the way again, I think Moon Knight did such a good job because it's one of those things that, therapist would hear and it's like, "Oh, I can't see that client." Like, that's
mhm.
gonna be too much,
It's too much
essentially.
going on. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that type of stigma, trying to, like,
Yeah,
demystify
yes.
that.
And it is the more acute the diagnosis, the more stigmatized it is.
Mhm.
DID, any of the personality disorders, any of the disorders with psychosis, like schizophrenia, bipolar, like these are more severe. Like just the symptoms are more
Yeah.
severe, and but like honestly, I have a client with DID. I have clients with bipolar and schizoaffective and so and like some of my favorite clients. Um,
Mhm.
they're some of the best people on this planet, and uh, the stigma I think comes from like it's scary.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
It's
How am I
scary
gonna
to
live with this for the
see
rest of my life, right?
that, and like it's scary to see someone that out of control. I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
Um, but like it's like the idea of like, well, the homeless person wandering the streets ranting at nothing there, right? Like that's scary. Okay, but they're probably actually not gonna like statistically speaking, they're not gonna hurt
Not gonna
anybody.
hurt you. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. They're actually more likely to be hurt by somebody else than they are
Exactly.
to hurt somebody. Um, and really these more severe stigmatizing diagnoses, like they have a huge impact on functioning
Mm.
and like relationships, especially with like the personality disorder ones, like they're so stigmatized because it's hard to be in relationship with a person who has a personality disorder. But like the majority, especially the cluster B personality disorders, they
Mhm.
all come from trauma. DID is because of trauma.
Yep. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. And
And
well, and
like,
I guess that fits into the ugly part of it too of like
mhm,
everyone that you have named so far is something that people will use to like diagnose somebody. Like, oh, my friend is always like up and down. She's so bipolar. It's things like that where it's like even if it like traditionally when I've heard this, it's somebody who like genuinely does not have any sort of diagnosis. It's just using it to say like this is what I think or I'm like putting a label on them.
yeah. Oh, I'm so OCD. I got to keep my desk all in order. Like, I
Exactly.
can't have the red pens touching the blue pens. Ha ha ha. So quirky. Like, no, like, OCD is debilitating.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
different types of OCD that, like, some people don't like, a lot of people don't talk about. It's not just the,
Mhm.
like, "I gotta have everything in its place." Like, there's religious OCD and, OCD where you're, like, afraid of being a pedophile. Like, it
Yeah.
is so and, like, that like, it's already scary for that person to be experiencing that, and then, like, for the rest of society to be like, "You're scary."
Yes.
'Cause
Mhm.
of that is, like,
Because of it.
so dehumanizing.
Mhm.
And yeah, like, we were talking about, like, with adjustment disorder, it is one of the least stigmatizing diagnoses where, like, the more stigmatizing diagnoses would be borderline or any cluster B personality, DID, schizophrenia. bipolar, autism is still an extremely
Yeah.
stigmatized, uh, whereas like ADHD is less stigmatized. Like I have clients who are
Yeah,
like, I'm pretty sure I'm both, but I just only want the ADHD
because it's
uh,
more digestible to
diagnosis because it's
people.
more
Mhm.
digestible. It's less stigmatized in society. Um, and then yeah, like labeling, like we are, which I was now I'm going to get into. We are labeling people with quote unquote disorders,
Mhm.
and like we are going to say like gender dysphoria disorder.
Mhm.
The fact that it has the word disorder at
Disorder.
the end has led many people to be like, well, see, they're messed up. They're wrong for this. It's a disorder. It needs to be fixed. Which, you know, all the research shows that the way to treat gender dysphoria disorder is to provide gender affirming care.
Yeah, which they're trying to take away, by the way, in case
Yeah.
you've been in case you've been
Um, the disorder is that they're experiencing dysphoria, not that
yeah,
they're having disordered thinking about their gender. They're experiencing dysphoria because their gender doesn't match the gender that they've been assigned doesn't match the gender that they feel that they are. It's not a disorder don't that they don't assign with the gender that they
yeah. It's
like.
not disordered thinking, it's
Yeah,
yeah,
it's not disordered thinking. The disorder is the dysphoria part of it where they feel terrible about their
yes.
life, right? Um, and like, yeah, we treat that disorder by providing gender affirming care so that their gender aligns what have been they present to the world aligns with what they feel is true inside of them. And then all of a sudden, it's actually not a disorder anymore because they're not experiencing dysphoria anymore.
And
Um,
guess what you don't do? Conversion
yeah.
therapy.
Yeah. That doesn't help. That
Don't
doesn't
do that.
help at all. Don't do
Yeah.
that. Um, and so, like, the fact that we call all these things disorders, like, is othering.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I again, yeah, just that like well, the chance for like misdiagnosis or people like using it against people, I think that just creates more I don't I guess like fear when it
Uh-huh.
comes to like getting a diagnosis or even like going like seeking help for like mental health period. I think that's
Mhm.
like essentially what you and I are getting into like over the course of like I mean like this podcast but these past episodes too of like demystifying all of it because there's still somehow that feeling of like or societally speaking if you're going to therapy like oh what's wrong like what happened like there has to be
Right.
something horrific in order for like someone to be getting treatment.
Well, like, I've talked to people, I'm like, therapy hasn't really become like therapy like we do now with it being so readily available and like seeing all these people in therapy, like it therapy has become way less stigmatized than it
Mhm.
was. And it has only been in the last like decade, maybe two,
Agreed. Yeah.
maybe two. Like
Yeah.
I'm being generous by saying 20 years. Um,
The most
and
palatable ones are couples and families, by the way. And
mhm,
again, it has to be like, "Oh, are you guys, like, on the brink of divorce? Like, what's going on?" No, we just wanna learn how to communicate better,
better. Yeah. Like, no,
right?
I just need someone to like talk to about my life because I feel stressed. Like, oh, okay. Um, right. Like, and now it's getting more like, okay, well, people just go to therapy. Like that's just getting more normalized. But um it's still this like, "Ooh, mental health, mental health." We blame a lot of things on mental health. "Oh, this action of this person was because of their mental health," right? It's like, okay, maybe, and also maybe not. Like, there's more it is a medical, it is also societal, like, there's all these things that are playing into it. But, like, yeah, like, just demystifying it all, destigmatizing it all, that you could have technically no disorder and still do therapy.
Yeah,
That you could
exactly.
have 10 different diagnoses and still do therapy, and both
Mhm.
people are going to, you know, get something out of it that
Yes.
helps them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And breaking it down to, like, it's your brain. Like, chemically
Mhm.
speaking, like, it's your brain, it's what happened to you, there's a multitude of things, but I think that's such a good point because if you're walking into a therapy session, you have one diagnosis, you have 10 diagnoses, both are still gonna get something out of it. Both are still doing something to, like, get them the help that they
Mhm.
need. It doesn't mean that you're it never means that you're less than, essentially.
No, no. But yeah, it is still very stigmatized, right? Like we're still a little bit in the like, it's the demons.
Yeah.
It's but also hate to say it, that's a little bit human nature. We don't like when things are different.
Exactly. Yes.
We like
Yeah.
when things are the same and different feels threatening.
Mhm.
But guess what, guys? We are not having to worry about the other tribes or the tiger to come eat us.
Yeah. You're
we
just in
can
the grocery store, you're not getting chased by a lion.
You're just in the grocery store. You're just in the library. The drag queen is not doing anything to kill you or the
Oh my
children. They are reading a book. It is
Mhm.
completely non threatening. Now, if the
Mhm.
drag queen morphs into a tiger and tries to eat you, then yeah, maybe we should
But
do
also,
something
that's
about that.
awesome, and I wanna go to that,
I want powers
actually.
like that. Yeah. Um,
Yeah. Go Power Rangers.
yeah, the drag queen was actually a tiger
The
in
whole time.
disguise. Oh, the whole time. It's not true. Like, it's just a person
Yep.
just being
Yeah.
nice. Like, just because they look different or act different doesn't mean they're not just a person,
Yeah. This is,
right?
like, the hardest thing about, like, what's going on, again, like, gestures broadly. Um,
Mhm,
just because and again, I'll, like, tie it back especially to it, like, being Pride Month of, like, there's
mhm.
just no way that we're still, like that it's still political, right? Just
It's
let
still
people do
this
what
way.
they wanna do. Let people, like, be in whatever relationship they wanna be in. It, like, if if it's not hurting anybody and it is, like, personally not affecting your life, oh my god, why is it such a big deal?
Right.
I
Which
don't get it.
honestly, like, that sounds like some disordered thinking to me.
Yeah.
'Cause, like, why are you why are you
Why?
obsessing over that compulsively?
Yeah, exactly, yes. Well, we already I mean, there are certain people in power that I can 100% with confidence diagnose with narcissistic personality disorder.
Yeah, textbook,
Yeah,
textbook,
yeah.
um, criteria for
It's
criteria, like, all
the
of
whole thing
this
is check
the
marks.
whole yeah,
That's
the whole thing is checkmarked. We're not supposed to do that. We're not supposed to diagnose celebrities or or, randos, but my god, that man,
everything. It's just if I
Mr.
had to
Sleeps and Poops a lot nowadays,
oh my god,
is a
all the little
textbook
toots.
narcissist.
Like, how
Oh,
could you not? How
yeah.
could you not?
Which
Oh,
even then, like, here's my radical acceptance and compassion part of an an you know, being diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder is one, it came from trauma, and two, the narcissistic individual hates themselves more than
yeah,
anybody else
yeah.
on this planet. And they're just
Yeah,
they're overcompensating for that.
100%. And if you
Yeah.
like and if you were to walk into a therapy office and say, like, "I have narcissistic personality disorder and I'm here to work on that," beautiful. You are taking that first step instead of just, like,
Mhm.
making it
I'm the
everybody
best.
else's yes,
Yeah.
exactly, right?
Literally making
Traumatizing
it the 8 billion people on this planet's problem.
exactly. Instead of traumatizing that projecting your trauma onto everybody else, you can just go to
Yes.
therapy. You can
You can
just
just
go to
go to therapy. Just go talk to somebody about it. God Christ's
yeah.
sakes. Because any good back to the question from episode 3, any good therapist is gonna see you as a person
Yes.
who
We're
needs
not gonna
help.
kick you out.
No. Um, though I don't know if Mr. Poops and Sleeps a lot came into my office and was like, "I've seen the light. I think I'm a narcissist." I'd be like, "Wow, that's
A slow
crazy."
clap. A slow clap emerges.
I can't talk to you about this. I'm too I got too many the counter transference is way too high, my guy.
That's I know too much about you socially that I cannot yeah.
Wish I
Oh
could
my
help, but no.
yeah.
Um,
What is that unconditional I have no unconditional
yeah.
positive regard.
Like I said, the closest I get is to, like, obviously trauma happened in his life, and he definitely hates himself more than anybody could possibly hate him,
Yeah.
and a lot of people hate him. So,
Yeah.
um,
Oh
So
my god. Well, that's a good
yeah.
example for I mean, I hope that that kind of opened up a little bit more to the conversation of, like, diagnoses in general. Like, there's good stuff,
Mhm.
there's bad stuff, there's really
Yeah,
bad stuff.
there's really bad stuff. And, you know, the science of psychology is still pretty new.
Mhm.
You know, therapy as we know it is still pretty new.
Yeah.
As in, like, you know, the last 50 years or so, and then, like, again, it's not even become a mainstream, less stigmatized thing since the last decade or 2
Yeah.
maybe, like, it's still pretty new, so it makes sense that a lot of people are like, "I don't know about mental health, what is" you know, because it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, well, it makes sense that you don't know,
Nobody was, like, willing to talk about it.
right? Or, like, it's just
Yeah.
it's taken us this long to just be where we are now, and, like, things are
Yep.
still things still change.
Yeah.
Um, we still
Yeah.
learn new things, it's still a growing field. Um
And your therapist, like, your therapist is learning. Your therapist is like I just saw somebody pop up for, I wish I could remember what practice it was, but she was, like, advertising that she does, like, tarot-based, like, shadow work and therapy. Like, there's so many different types of,
mhm,
like, therapy that are coming out of, like, the main modalities to, like, help like Christian counseling or, one of our, I almost said intern, but shout out Josh, a full
PCC,
LPCC, like Buddhist
graduated
mindfulness.
and all. Yeah,
So
yeah.
things like that where it's
Buddha's
like
contemplative, it is not mindfulness,
contemplative.
it's
Thank you.
contemplative, yeah.
Contemplative.
There's
Thank
a
you.
difference, yeah.
But things like that where it's like, no matter the diagnosis, like that is what therapy is for, so that you can find something that like works specifically for you, the
Mhm.
human, not the diagnosis.
Yeah, not the diagnosis. We just have to put a diagnosis a lot of times because, you know,
Yeah,
like I said, we're stuck in a medical model. Um,
exactly.
yep. Maybe one day
Well,
it'll change. Here's hoping.
I know I mean, that's what we're trying to do here, right? The more we talk about
Yep.
it, the less scary it appears
The
to
less
be.
scary it is.
Yeah.
Well, I think let's see, we're at the end of our episode here. So thank you all for joining us for episode 4, part 3, diagnoses, the good, the bad, and the ugly of our what is mental health? Addressing the rumors.
Yeah.
We will see you all in the next episode.
Thanks for
Take care.
joining us, everybody.
Yes, thank you. Bye.
Bye.